Abstract title, a compressed history of the title of the property, prepared by an abstractor including all actions that have affected the title, such as conveyances and all current in- encumbrances affecting the title. Addendum, an addition attached to a real estate contract that becomes part of the agreement between the parties. Amendment, a document that changes the term in the sales contract that has been previously agreed to by all parties. All parties must sign the amendment for it to be valid. Closing, the final step in the home buying process. When the actual title to the property being purchased transfers from the seller to the buyer, and fees and prorated items are paid out of the escrow fund held by the closing entity. Community property. Texas recognizes community property, a special form of joint tenancy that exists between husband and wife, with each owning one half interest. Upon death, the descendant's interest passes in a manner similar to tenants in common. Words in the deed, such as John and Mary, husband and wife, as community property, establish community property ownership. Deed, the legal written document that conveys the intangible ownership rights, colon slash title of a property to another property. Deed of trust, a legal document used as security for a promissory note which conveys temporary but not full title to the third party transaction, where it is held until either a loan officer is paid off and the title is conveyed to the borrower, B, the loan is foreclosed and the title is conveyed to the lender. Earnest money contract, a contract in which the buyer agrees to purchase and the seller agrees to sell a seller's property for a specific amount and puts down a deposit of earnest money to demonstrate his or her offer in good faith. Incumbents, any restriction, encroachment, claim, or lien on a property, such as a mortgage that affects its value or use. Equal credit opportunity. The ECOA, Title 7 of the Consumer Credit Protection Act, protects consumers against unfair and discriminatory lending. Escrow closing, a closing conducted with the help of disinterested third party, the escrow agent, who holds funds and documents until they are required to be dispersed to the parties in the transaction. Federal House Administration, FHA, part of the Department of Human and Urban Development that works to help increase home ownership and contribute to building healthy neighborhoods and communities. As a part of this goal, the FHA loan program ensures loans to qualified applicants, reducing the required down payment and other qualifying factors. Federally related, a term used to describe the types of real estate transactions that fall under the scope RESPA, including most conventional VA and FHA loans. Funding fees, a fee charged by the Department of Veterans Affairs for guaranteeing loans to offset the cost of the VA guarantee program. Interest, the charge a borrower pays for the use of money. Joint tenancy, property is owned by two or more persons at the same time in equal shares. One entity of time, title, interest, and possession are vested in each joint tenant. For utilities, each joint tenant has an undivided right to possess the whole property, a portionate right of equal ownership interest. When one joint tenant dies, his or her interest automatically vests in the surviving joint tenants by operation of law. Words in the deed, such as John and Mary, as joint tenants with the right of survivorship and not as tenants in common, establish title in joint tenancy. Some states do not allow this form of property ownership. It is a legal form of ownership in Texas. Land, property not including building or equipment that does not occur naturally. Lien, a claim that one person has on another property as security for debt. A mortgage or money owed to a contractor, for instance, sometimes creates a lien on the borrower's property. Lien theory state, a state that interprets the mortgage as creating a lien on the mortgage property. While the borrower retains the title ownership rights, the mortgage lender lien is removed once all loan payments have been completed by the borrower. Texas is a lien theory state. Mortgage, a legal document that creates a lien on a property as security for a loan. Sometimes the term refers to both the mortgage document and the promissory note. Note, also known as promissory note. It is a written promise to pay back a loan, stating the conditions under which this promise is to be met. Organization fee, a charge, usually a percentage of the loan amount that a lender charges for underwriting or originating the loan. PITI, Principal Entrance Texas Insurance, also known as the housing expense. Power of sale clause, a clause in the loan document, mortgage deed of trust, or note that allows the lender to foreclose in the event of the borrower default without the lender having taken just judicial action. Prepaid item, an expense that the seller has paid for before closing that must be divided between buyer and seller at closing. Prepayment clause, a clause in the loan document, mortgage deed, trust, note that describes the amount of the principal balance that the borrower may pay within a certain period of time. The most common clause generally indicates that the borrower has the right to repay the loan in whole or part in any part at any time. Private mortgage insurance, PMI, an amount charged by a private company to a borrower in the form of an upfront monthly premium to insure the lender against loss in the event the borrower defaults. Promissory note, a legal document wherein the borrower acknowledges his or her debt to the lender and agrees to repay. Real estate, land plus everything permanently attached to it, including buildings, shed, trees, etc. Real property, land and anything growing on it, affixed to it, or built upon land. This also includes man-made buildings as well as crops. Real property is the best characterized as property that does not move, or it is attached to the land. The terms real property and real property can be used interchangeably. Also, real property may include not just the land, but anything that is permanently located within or under the land. This may include oil, gas, minerals found under the land. Another term used for real property is premises. Real estate settlement procedures, RESPA, a federal act outlining the procedures and disclosures that are necessary at the closing of the real estate transaction. Refinancing, the process of paying off an exact loan amount by taking a new loan, for example, to receive a better interest rate. Sole ownership, property is owned entirely by one person. Words in the deed such as John, a single man, establishes title as a sole ownership. Special assessment, a tax on a property for specific improvement that benefits such as street repair, lighting, which unlike an ad valorem tax is not calculated on the base of the property's value, but rather the portion of the cost of the improvement. Tax deduction, a cost or expense that reduces the amount of a taxpayer's taxable income, such as interest payment on a mortgage loan. It may or may not be a dollar for dollar reduction as the tax credit is. Tenants in common. Tenants in common provide for multiple percentages of ownership entrance if desired. The entrance rights for the heirs of each guarantee. When someone who is a tenant in common with another person dies, the interest the interest the deceased person has not automatically passed to the other owner. Instead, the interest is transferred to the estate of the deceased owner. Title. All the rights that ownership of a real property entails. Title insurance. An insurance policy that covers the holder in the event of loss due to uncovering of some fault in such titles such as forgery or poorly filed records. Title theory state. A state in which the title to the property is given to the lender as security for the loan, for granting the borrower the right to possession of the property. Texas is not a title theory state. Truth in Lending Act, TILA, Title 1 of the Consumer Credit Protection Act, CCPA, requires that lenders disclose certain facts about loans they are offered to consumers.